Hi folks, in English 2323, I am Dr. E. I'm your instructor for this semester, so welcome to the first day of the spring semester in this 14-week class. I'm glad you're here. I hope you will have some fun in this class. I know I will, and I'm looking forward to it. So what I will do in this video is walk through the syllabus generally and the policies and the expectations for the course, and then I'll touch on our schedule for at least the next few upcoming weeks, and so you get an understanding of how to read the schedule. A lot of you have multiple syllabi, so having so many can be kind of confusing to then switch from one to the other and understand what do I need to do for this day, for that day. So I want to walk through that so there's no confusion. All right, so I'm going to pull up this syllabus, which you can also access on D2L in various places if you want to print out a copy or have it pulled up on another screen so that you can consult that if necessary. Feel free. So on the screen you'll see the English 2323 general, information. There's the course information, but all of my contact info is right here. And I say, my name is Erin Raft, but call me Dr. E because the last name kind of throws people sometimes. I note that my email address is here, but I really encourage you, please use D2L because that will go straight to my inbox. So sometimes students email me from their personal email addresses, and it goes through a really intense firewall for all Lone Star College systems. So it can take several days to arrive. So to forego all of those problems, just shoot me an email through D2L. It comes straight to my inbox, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I'm able. I note that my office hours are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. And that's going to be in the D2L Instant Messages feature, which I will talk about in a separate video that walks through D2L, so keep an eye out for that. And then on Thursdays, I'll set up available times in WebEx where you can make an appointment. They're set up in 10-minute increments, so you can set aside a time. And this is just if you have something that's going on, or if you have a question that's not really good to pose via email or on our discussion boards, we can kind of talk through some of that. The office location, obviously we're online, and I do have a phone number that if we set up a time that we can talk, you can reach out to me that way. I have the information for our department chair and our dean, should you ever need that in the future. And I do have a little disclaimer here that just notes that if this is new to you, if you're unfamiliar with D2L in general as a program, or if you're new to online courses, please note that it can be really frustrating, right? And it just is going to take some time of you, going through the course, clicking through the different areas, getting used to the schedules of your various classes and how those are set up on D2L. Just give yourself a little grace and a little bit of time because it can take some of that time to get used to everything. And I note that in our class, at least, typically we run on a Thursday-Sunday schedule. I post everything by Mondays around noon, so all the weekly videos and all the assignments, those will be available Monday by noon, but the due dates will generally be Thursdays and Sundays, so you can kind of keep track. You can always work ahead depending on what kind of schedule you're dealing with, whether it's work or other classes, so keep that in mind, but just know it can take some time. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you are likely not alone, okay? So British literature is our course, and so we're generally just kind of looking at British literature from the Romantic period to present. So we'll get into some contemporary fiction, which is my favorite. We'll spend a lot of time in more contemporary authors and readings. And then for this specific section, I note that we will be doing all the things that are required of the course, but we will also use intersectionality, which is a term that talks about how we look at and examine different aspects of identity. So I note here how are facets of class, sexuality, ethnicity, and or race, age, ability versus disability. All of these issues, we may not address every single one of them, but I want us to note that a lot of times in British literature especially, we're dealing with the stories, lives, and writings of old white men. So I want us to push beyond that. I want us to kind of see whose voices are not included. There's a politics to setting up a specific anthology or a text for a class such as this. And so I want us to note that even though we're looking at a text that's full of authors and time periods and stories, we have to always be aware that there are going to be stories that are missing, right? There are people who perhaps weren't able to write down their stories, or who weren't able to publish due to racism, sexism, all of those things throughout history. So I just want that to be always in our mind, okay? So we will be focusing a bit beyond just the regular requirements for a section such as this. For required text, please don't be thrown off by this. I'm teaching two separate sections, so welcome to both of you. One section had been planned for quite a while, and so this was the required text. It's the Major Authors 10th edition. It is a single volume, and it is edited by Greenblatt. But I also had a section added, so welcome to those of you in section in the other section I mentioned here. So this is the Norton Anthology of British Literature 10th edition, and this comes with 3 different books within one version. So it's volumes D, E, and F, also edited by Greenblatt. If you want it, you are free to choose whichever version you want. I chose the Major Authors text because it is a single, book, and it costs less than the full version that is now required for a separate section. So don't be thrown by this. In our weekly schedule, I will have the readings for one section versus the readings for another because the page numbers don't match, which is a real treat for me when it comes to scheduling. So just don't be thrown by that. Either one of those texts, will be fine. I've put the specific course text information in D2L in the book information area. So you can, link to the bookstore or link to Norton's publishing site where you can get copies, e-copies, electronic copies or print copies. Note that if you're getting a print copy, it's going to take a while to arrive to you, and we're hitting the ground running because we are a 14-week course, so you'll need your book now, okay? All right. When you have time, you can look at the learning outcomes and all of this information. There is this section on general information for students, and this applies to all of you, even if you are not currently, assigned to specifically the North Harris campus, if you are perhaps at a high school location. So note that we have assistance for any of our students, with communities and schools, and I also have information about that posted on D2L. If you need more information on our specific policies, there's a link here. And then I need you to kind of read the rest of this, like the 6-drop statement. Know that dropping courses can have an impact on you, and the state of Texas limits it to 6. So you want to, use those drops if it's necessary for you as a student, given what you're experiencing in a particular semester. But note that those will go with you to any universities or colleges in the state. The emergency notification process, you can get a text message if something's going on campus, if we're shut down for whatever reason. Typically, if there are weather issues, the campuses may close, but we may also say, because there's a chance of power outages, because of what people may be experiencing, even if we are working solely online, we may delay the schedule. There may be some things going on. So just keep an eye on D2L because I will always update you, but you also want to be connected to the emergency network there. Counseling and advising, all the information is here. Remember, counseling is more having to do with your life and emotional status and all of those things, whereas advising is for academics, so keep that in mind. There's information on writing assistance. All of this will be included in D2L as well. I'm not trying to rush through this, but I don't want to go through information that's covered elsewhere. The policies are pretty straightforward, especially in an online environment. We need to be respectful of one another because, we're not talking face to face. You're not able to see one another's responses and the visual cues that we usually get when we're sitting together and having a conversation. So when you're responding to people in D2L to their posts or ideas, be mindful of that. Know that sometimes, depending on the way you're wording things, it can come off as disrespectful or rude or confrontational. So just keep those things in mind as you're working through this semester. The visit hours are, I mentioned before, an email and communication. I also mentioned to just go through the D2L email. I put please post in the Q&A discussion area of D2L, because a lot of times students will email me with questions, which is totally fine. That you have every right to do that, but they're questions that other folks may have as well. So if you post in the question and answer area of the discussion board, everybody can see those answers. And I've also set it to anonymous, so you can choose to post anonymously. Sometimes having your name attached to a question, you're like, oh, this may be a stupid question. I mean, there's no such thing, but there is that option, so just keep that in mind. So I don't accept late work, something to keep in mind. But there is a 24-hour grace period for major assignments, because I know sometimes things will happen. So even though that will result in a drop from an A to a B, you have that option should you become sick, or a family member's in dealing with a difficult time. You have that 24-hour grace period. Attendance and participation for an online course is pretty straightforward. The grade you receive will likely be based on how much you are participating and attending the course. Statistically, the people who log in more do better in the class because they are up to date, they're keeping track of what is due and when, they're viewing all the videos, even if they can be annoying and time consuming. Never in my class, but maybe in somebody else's class. Plagiarism is a really big deal in a course such as this, so make sure you understand what plagiarism means, and go to this link for the Purdue Online Writing Lab website if you need more information. In this digital age, it's really easy to plagiarize without intending to, but it will result in a 0 grade for an assignment. You'll have a chance to redo it after meeting with me for a WebEx chat, and that's just to talk through it. That's not for me to shake my finger and tell you what a terrible person you are. Usually it's unintentional, but you need to arm yourself with the information and understand what all is entailed when it comes to plagiarism. So keep that in mind. And there's information about academic integrity there. So in terms of what our assignments will look like this semester, the points are what we will focus on. So here's the percentage and the breakdown, but we will in our grade book be using a point system. So 350 points is going to be based on the discussions and participation, including participation quizzes, and the writing posts. You will keep track of a reading journal for every item that we read. I will have a video that explains that later. The annotation exercises will just essentially be practice for the annotated bibliography, which is coming up with our paper portfolio. Again, I will have a handout and a video for that. And our paper portfolio is going back to some paper topic posts. We'll have a peer review session. You'll submit a draft to me. We will meet via WebEx. So if you signed up for this course because it's online and you didn't want to have any face-to-face meetings, please note that you will at least once in the semester have to meet with me face-to-face, just so we can talk through any of the feedback I have for your paper portfolio. It will drastically impact your grade in a good way. If we are able to have that conversation, I can pull up your paper and walk through information. So just keep that in mind. If you didn't want to meet anybody face-to-face ever at all, this may not be the class for you. Okay, and then we have a final multimedia project, which is just a great way to end the semester. It's fun, it gives you a chance to be creative. Again, you'll get an assignment sheet and a rubric and a video later on about that. And here is just some more information about each of those assignments. Okay, so take some time to work through and look through that. Briefly, I'm going to pull up our schedule, which will be a separate document just so you can refer to it pretty quickly. Everything will be kind of posted on Monday in terms of, okay, here's what we have coming up this week. Okay, Thursday will always be a due date, especially for discussion posts based on our reading. You do have an email assignment, so you're going to send me a test email, and that is something that will be covered in D2L when you log on. For your reading discussion post this week, it's introduction, so you need to respond to 2 of your colleagues. And there's information again in the discussion post area about this. This is just telling you when it's due. And then there is a brief survey I want you to fill out, which just gives me a little bit of information to help me understand what your access to technology is, what your comfort level is. It just really helps, and it's a grade. And then I always have a section for next week. So next week, this is what you'll need to read. That's why you need to have your books. So for section 1503, which that's the version, that's the major author's single text version, right? So this is what it looks like. Here is your reading and page numbers, and then section 1912 with the full version. Here are your readings and page numbers, and note that you will be asked to, in addition to the reading, watch a video with the link here to Chimamanda Adichie, her wonderful TED Talk. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's have a great semester.